Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
There is no second best. None other than Jerome Powell, guys. Today is the FOMC meeting. It is 2 o'clock. Let's get the breaking news here. Breaking news live right now, guys. Just in. Let's refresh it. Someone's going to be talking about it here. Breaking: Federal Reserve leaves interest rates unchanged. Who would have thought? F. Jerome Powell. There we go. Boom. We'll post that out there. F's in the chat. F's all day. F, L's, 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 L's. We do not like Jerome Powell here today, guys. Bro is political, but we are up 5% right now, baby. Up 484 real dollars, guys. That is real money. That ain't fake money. That's real money. That's how we do it on this channel. Will I lose it? Probably. I'll probably lose all that money. I'll probably lose every single dollar amount that you're looking at today here. $434. We're up in a 5x position here from the Discord earlier this morning that we called out for you guys on a Solana trade. Solana long there. But man, oh man, I have a stop loss on it. I'm going to let it do what it does. I will probably lose this trade. I don't know. Maybe a double bottom. Maybe a bull trap. Maybe I'm going to get taken advantage of from Jerome Powell. Maybe Jerome Powell, Daddy Powell, is going to give me a spanking I am not ready for, guys. But that is what we're watching right now. So if you see the number go down, big red candlesticks, I lose money. Big green candlesticks, we make money here. And yeah, we entered perfectly kind of at that double bottom range. So we'll see if we get what the markets want, which, man, this does just not look. Guys, are we going to end up, am I going to lose this trade or am I going to win this trade? Are we going to lose this trade or are we going to win this trade? Huh? Let me know in the comments below. That's what I'm excited to hear today. But either way, guys, Bitcoin sitting at $104,000. Ethereum sitting at under 2,500 now, which is our favorite trading range, right? If you're picking up Ethereum around 2468, you are like in the golden pocket of ranges. But man, look at the volatility coming in after this announcement, guys. Massive volatility. Look at that volatility. That is insane. That is insane. Let's look at the SPX right now. The SPX off this news. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Wow. This chart. Well, I guess I'll be positive there. What else we got here, though? Trade setup is OP all day long, dude. Appreciate, man. Lose? Damn. Cheryl out here on X just telling me I'm going to lose. Thank you, Cheryl. Absolutely love you. Appreciate the positivity. Appreciate the positivity here. Again, up $228. So, guys, we're now 20 minutes away. We're 20 minutes away from Jerome Powell coming out here today. 20 minutes away from the FOMC meeting. Now, I have to ask the chat here first, okay? These are the rules. I do not make the rules. I do not make them, okay? What color tie? You guys got to tell me. What color tie is Jerome Powell going to wear today? Blue, purple, or red? Blue, purple, or red, guys? That is the biggest question of this FOMC meeting now that we have seen rates are unchanged. And, yeah, I did say F Jerome Powell out here. I mean, dude, there's no reason not to cut. No reason not to cut here. We got blues. We got the reds. We got the blues. Blue, 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 blue. Purple. Lots of purples now coming in. Lots of purple. Dude, if he comes out with a yellow riggy-jiggy, I have no idea what would happen, man. Special black tie-day? That would be crazy. That would be crazy. Well, since this morning, guys, we have breaking news from Ondo Finance. Absolute W. Celebrating a major OUSG milestone. Milestone. I can't speak here today. 700 million TVA, guys. TVL. I just broken. I need to be reset. The TVA actually needs to reset my timeline. That's what needs to happen to fix my brain. It's probably because I don't have food. I don't have food, guys. I did not eat lunch today. You know why? Because it turns out I go home. My dog, diarrhea everywhere. On the walls, on the carpet. We're throwing out like half our furniture. The dog has squirted everywhere, dude. So that's how I spent my lunch. Have not eaten yet. So after the stream, I will eat here. But 182. This trade's not looking good, chat. It's not looking good. The SPX did not like this. The SPX did not like this. We were up 500. Now you'll probably watch me lose 500. We'll see. Oscar reposted the stream. Absolutely appreciate you, Oscar. Much love to you. CJ, love you too on X, man. Appreciate you guys for reposting. Guys, hit that like button if you guys are on your way in. Again, we're waiting for Daddy Powell, as they say, to come out here and absolutely nuke the markets. The real nuke, guys, the real nuke was never going to be on Iran, okay? It was never going to be on Iran. It was going to be Jerome Powell on these markets. It was going to be Jerome Powell on these markets nuking our portfolios because we can't have nice things in America. No. We can't have an alt season. No. Can't have any of that. Can't have any of that. The Iranians literally throw gay people off the buildings. Whoopi Goldberg. Let's not do that. Okay. Anyways, don't know what I read there. Love reading random BS here. The Tucker Carlson interview did drop. I have not watched it yet. Interesting. I have to watch that here today as well. Breaking news. That's not breaking news. Let's see how Gangsy's doing. Is Gangsy still alive in Israel? Let's see. I like your new cut, G. Yo, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, dude. Trillions is what Ave says. Trillions is what Ave says. Let's pull up CoinMarketCap here. Let's pull up the tokens, guys. Don't know what Oink Market is. I didn't know cops have their own marketplace. No, that was terrible. Terrible joke. I absolutely love it, cops. I have a blue flag. Yes, I do. Take a joke. 1042. Ethereum 2491. Tether. Oh, God, guys. Tether's collapsing. 24-hour time frame. We have Aerodrome still popping off up to 81, almost 82 cents. Kaya here, 16 cents and 1634. Kronos, 92, up a little bit here. Not major movers. Top losers, though. The story of my life. That is the loser. That is the loser today. That is the consensus. I think a lot of people can relate to this fact that the story of their life feels like a major L sometimes. And that is story IP taken away here. Down 19%. 19% today. Down 43% in the last month. Let's look at the last month, actually, users here. 43%. Man. G freaking G's, dude. Why does Aerodrome keep performing so well? Because, dude, did you not know? Have you not seen what Aerodrome's been doing in Israel, dude? Intercepting like every rocket, man. No, I'm just kidding. That's the Iron Dome. But Aerodrome do be feeling like the Iron Dome of crypto right now. Off all the major announcements I've had in the news lately, in terms with Coinbase adopting a more huge integration with borrowing lending protocols. It's a massive updates within Congress and the Genius Act. A lot of people anticipating Aero to do really, really well because of Coinbase, actually. Very, very bullish out. Good song. Was I singing a song? I can't even remember here. Trump will get rid of XRP. I don't think it's quite that simple. Don't think it's quite that simple after he launched his own meme coin. And his wife literally rugged a meme coin. But hey, it is what it is. You think Polkadot going back up? Do I think Polkadot looks up reloredo on Rumble, my guy? Do I believe Polkadot will be going back up? Well, I do, in fact, think DOT can, in facto, go up-o. But ultimately, what's that price performance look like? Let's pull this up on the daily here. Oh, my God, guys. Let's just take a moment to look at this daily candlestick on accident. This is Polkadot. I clicked on the daily on Polkadot. So I'm hoping I'm going to zoom out, and it looks like a little blip. Let's see. Ooh! Oh, my God. What is Polkadot doing? It's dot season, baby. My God. Okay, that's a little bit better. Looks a little bit better when you zoom all the way out and realize we're just at the bottom. Look. Polkadot failed the parachain slot auctions. Simple as that. She will pump one day, maybe. I would say if you see Polkadot pump, you better hope to take profit at $11, my man. That is your new resistance. Look how resistance that is. That is mad resistance right there. But yeah, Polkadot will probably pump this cycle. It'll probably pump this cycle. But like, is it going to go back to $54? Probably not. Probably not. I hate to be that guy. Probably not. But there's better tech out there. There's projects like Kita that I've been doing more research into, founded by the ex-CEO or founder, I believe, of ex-CEO of Google. Kita is the fastest blockchain on the planet right now. And shout out to the chat that found this and introduced me it in the Discord. Kita is one I would be watching for. It is a new project. Completely I don't have any yet. This isn't sponsored. This isn't paid. I have no affiliation to them. Eric Schmidt, the ex-CEO of Google, does not give a F who I am. Okay. Doesn't matter if I have 1,000 viewers. It doesn't matter if I have 10,000 viewers. Bro is Google, quite literally. I'd be looking for accumulation on Kita. I think because Kita, if you haven't seen, pull them on X here. Go here. Boom. Bang, pow. Like this. Little search engine. If you type it in up here. Boom. K-E-E-T-A here. Yeah. World's fastest and most scalable blockchain at the moment. Doing 10 million transactions per second or something absolutely insane. So if you want to watch a project closely, it may be watching Kita here. And I'm not talking about the Kita diet, okay? The only thing on a Kita diet right now is Polkadot's chart action, okay? Polkadot be losing some pounds, you know what I'm saying? Polkadot needs to start eating some meat again. Kita having much needed pullback before it explodes. Yeah, I'm not in it at all, but I was like, I'm not even going to touch it when it pumps so hard. But now that markets are pulling back so hard, look, it's not on. Actually, where can you buy this? Where can we get Kita? Because I do not use Dolphin. I go exchanges here. Just click on Kita. We're going to click on markets. For anyone that doesn't know, by the way, you don't know how to find where a project is listed. Search them up on CoinMarketCap quite easily. Scroll down, click on markets. Aerodrome, baby. We can get it on the big old Aerodrome. LBank. Actually, you can get on LBank right there. Boom. There you go. Links in the description below, guys, for the Discord. Kita's the new SWI. I do believe, chat, Kita could be the new SWI. I do believe it. And now I'm comfortable talking about it. I wasn't comfortable talking about Kita before because it pumped so relentlessly. I mean, dude, right? Let's pull this up here again. Let's put KTA USDT here. Let's go to Belowfin's chart. I mean, dude, it was at people were like, should I buy at $1.70? I'm glad I told you not to buy at $1.70. I was like, no. Don't buy at all-time highs. But now it's, dude, much needed pullback. And you're at a support area. So if it loses this, you're fucked. But, it does look like, let me see the 4-hour. No, 4-hour looks pretty good. I mean, I would DCA here. If it loses this level, it's definitely going back to 47 cents. But in terms of an entry point, it's better than where it was. Oh my gosh, guys. Solana is holding on for dear life. Why can't we have nice things? Why do these presumptuous, why do these elitists get to control the market, man? Why does Jerome Powell get to, dictate whether things should have high or low interest rates? I'll never be able to afford a house thanks to you, Jerome Powell. Thank you, Jerome Powell, for making my life miserable. I just want a goddamn alt season. That's all I want. That's all we want right here down in the South. I want to be able to afford some shrimp down at Bubba Gump. Powell doesn't seem to like altcoins. Powell doesn't seem to like anything but his power. I don't know. You thought he would like 2% inflation. He doesn't like 2%. Apparently 2% inflation is not good enough. No idea. Time to go back to McDonald's. Honestly though, chat, type 1 in chat. Type 1 in chat if you would drop with me in World War III. Honestly, just do it. What else we got to do? Let's draft, bro. Where are we dropping? Let me look at the Iranian map right now. Iran map. Nukes. Here we go. Let's choose what nuclear facility we dropping at, boys. Okay? And girls. Girls can be in there too. Just not on my flight. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm on one today, dude. I haven't had any food. We're dropping Iraq, Bordeaux, Natanz, Isfahan, Bushehr. Where are we going? You can only pick one. I'm probably going to go to Gotchin. Because I got you with this very stupid joke. Yes. Someone said drop on LA. We need to drop some bleach on LA is what we need to do. We just need to drop some bleach on LA. That's what we need to do. Fordo in the chat. A lot of Fordos. Fordos? Fordos. Oh, man. Dude, you guys are crazy. Cracked going to Fordo, dude. Fordo's dropping in to the worst area. Literally. Quite absolutely, literally there. Parshin. I'm about to predict the next 48 hours. Interesting. What's the next? Tell me, man. What's the future? What's the future? Am I going to win or lose this trade? You predict it. Tell me. No rate cuts? No, we got absolutely 0 rate cuts. Let's go to Fed Watch now, right? Fed Watch. Boom. CME Fed Watch, baby. Right here. Nothing contained herein constitutes the solicitation of the purchase of sale or of. Oh, no, kidding. Just kidding. Someone said gulag? Question mark. Yeah, there you go. Boom. Look at that. Now July 30th. There's a 16% chance we get a rate cut next month. Do I think are we going to get a rate cut next month, chat? Yes or no? I'm going to say no. That's just how it be sometimes. Farad is from Lord of the Rings right now, right? No, I think that's Frodo. Pretty Ordo equals Mordor. Not with 10,000 men. Can you do this? Everybody says no. You don't have to yell at me, Admir. Dude, chill. Look at this man. No! Like, chill. Chill. Bro. Chill. You know? No, it's all good. No, not ever. I probably just broke someone's eardrum. Okay, what else we got here on X here as we wait for this? Guys, we are again now. What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? Someone tell me in the chat. Why can't I see time? 2:16. We're 14 minutes away. 14 minutes away from Jerome Powell breaking the markets, guys. Breaking the markets here. Guys, we have 5,000 people watching between X and YouTube. If you guys can do us a favor, hit that like button. Repost if on your X. And if you're cool, comment below what your favorite altcoin is. Tell me what your tell me what altcoin I need to buy right now in the comments below. Tell me. Tell me. You get to shill it on screen right now. You're going to see it pop up all the way on the other right-hand side. You have Brent Whitley saying "my precious" on screen right now, being weird. You know, it's cool though. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Ave, Woot, Sonic, Ada Love, baby, Dump. Jason Casper's Chicken loves that dump truck. You know what I'm saying? 8-cent Plume. Dude, Plume might be an absolute peak purchase right now, dude. I might have to pick up some, dude. We called this thing at 9 cents. It did a 2x. We made a beautiful trade. But now I might have to buy some. Might actually have to buy some to hodl here. I'm very excited for Plume. Look at that. Plume's just beautiful, man. Just beautiful. Is that beautiful? Not really. Everybody, is there anything up and to the right? What is up and to the right? SPX? Dude, we're struggling here today. Back up to 104.3. Back up to 145. Oh, dude, Jerome Powell, please just be chill. Just be chill, man. Someone needs to give a good reason for cuts. What part of the economy is in the shitter that needs saving by the rate cuts? That's not the right question, Derek. Well, look, Derek, it's a great question. It's a great question, right? What part of the market, Derek, doesn't need them? That's my counter to you, Derek, would be what part of the market doesn't need them? In my opinion, the private sector needs them. The private sector needs them to grow. And with all the Doge cuts, with all the cost of living rising, et cetera, yada, 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 all we should focus on is cheaper interest rates. So that way it's cheaper to cost to borrow money so we can see things like wage growth, job employment, hiring, et cetera. I don't see a reason not to want to expand the economy and keep interest rates elevated when inflation is now down at 2%, which is the core inflation zone, right? And energy costs and everything are dropping exponentially. I just don't see it, because if we were to close those interest rates, or not even, you don't have to drop them by 50 basis points. If we were to lower that cost, right? If we were to lower those interest rate levels, it would incentivize the private sector to hire more, and it therefore increase wages. I think that's beautiful. I think that's a beautiful thing. There you go. There's no reason not to cut rates. You don't have to, that doesn't have to be panicked to cut rates. Look at 2010 to 2019. Low interest rates. We adjusted interest rates in 2016. Doesn't have to. Jerome's just trying to be a Paul Volcker when there's not a moment to need to be Paul Volcker. The moment was COVID-19, which he got wrong, by the way, chat. He got wrong. They said inflation was transitory. Say yes or no, yes or no, chat? Was inflation transitory? Was our Federal Reserve Chair and our Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen at the time right about inflationary or transitory inflation? No. So I think he's too late. I think he held on as long as he should have, but now I think he's too late. I think too late Powell is a perfect name. It was not. It was not. Today will be the start of all season. Maybe. Cookie? Ooh, we got a $5 super chat from Pompous. Give me crumble cookies in the chat, man. What is dude? Crumble cookie is such a hit or miss. Sometimes I'm like, damn. And then 9 out of 10 times I'm like, dude, I should not have eaten that. It's making me sick. It needed rate cuts. We needed rate. I think we needed rate cuts now. Yeah. I think we needed rate cuts now. The commercial on here keep freezing up and I have to get out of the stream and come back to fix it. Anyone else getting that? I've been seeing that that's been happening to me on other streamers too, Coin Gold or Golden. So I think it's just you two, unfortunately. Get a sloppy 999. Well, this is the beautiful part, right, chat? So some people bring up a good question. What's the reason to cut? Well, there's no reason not to cut. Now, is there a reason to print? That's another argument. I don't think the Fed needs to print money. Like, by the way, guys, when the Fed starts cutting, like, yeah, that will elevate into M2 expanding, but it's not like the Feds are actually actively purchasing or printing money, right? We might not see like that money printer really turn back on until 2027, 2028. Like they have 425 basis points that they can cut. Remember, like interest rates were at 0 all through COVID. Then they went up to almost 5%, right? Then now they're back down a little bit. Like, why not be at the 3% even? Just start reducing them. Like 25, 25, 25. Maybe next year another 75 basis points. 25, 25, 20, simple. Out of the 1,000 she did, if you're not sure, the reference, Powell won't cut rates. Trump has no stroke. Alt season starts when Bitcoin tops out. Yep. Refinancing trillions of our debt is enough reason. The interest alone dwarfs all other savings. Yes and no, Byron. I mean, I that's actually probably one of the best takes, Byron, I would say, is they don't want to they want to elevate them as long. Wouldn't they want to lower the interest rates? Refinancing trillions of our debt is reason enough. The interest rates alone dwarfs all of our savings. Yeah, so that's to cut, right? Oh, my bad, Byron. I thought you were me. Yeah, exactly, Byron. Exactly. But at the same time, like the United States debt issue is cutting our interest rates isn't going to solve that. Putting a 3% deficit on Congress will cause that. And I'm sure you agree with that. Like the only way we solve our deficit in the United States is if people like Ted Cruz, who can't even name how many people are in a population that he is actively trying to bomb, has a 3% debt because they don't give a shit. They don't. If you think these same politicians who can't even tell you how many people live in an area that they're literally going to bomb, do you really think they're actually diving that deep into the data analytics on our debt and how much money we're spending and where it should go and how it should be spent? No, dude. Put a cap on these kids. The Federal Reserve should never have been created. Ever. Now, well, actually it should have, because it did make the United States the world superpower. I'll give him that credit. You have to give him that credit. That's, give or take, But yeah, the Federal Reserve is artificially created. I know what we'll say in monitoring the situation, the usual-ish. Yeah, he's going to say, okay, yeah, let's get some predictions here, chat. We're now 7 minutes away from this. Up $100. We were up $500. Then they decided not to cut rates, and we lost $400. Let's see. What is do you think here? I'm going to ask you a question. Can we take a poll in chat right now? Can I take polls from here? Do we have a mod in the chat? I want to do a poll. We need more mods to do polls if that's possible. I don't know how to, but also shout out to Byron here. 10 Discover Crypto memberships. Just absolutely blessing the audience here today. I think Brandon might have received, I don't know who received them, but 10 Discover Crypto memberships. Byron, absolutely love you. Appreciate you, man. That is you didn't have to do it, man. What a goat, man. Thank you for funding my PNL that I'm about to lose. I appreciate you, man. But yeah, bullish or bearish? Bullish or bearish? Bullish or bearish, right? Bullish or bearish? That's what we want to know. Bullish or bearish? People 100% we are moving forwards towards our dual mandate of 2%. That's, dude, my goodness, chemistry, bro. Welcome. Chemistry, bro, could straight up be the new Federal Reserve. 50 gifted subs! 50 gifted subs! Oh my gosh! I can afford my rent this month. Let's freaking go, Byron. Dude, beautiful, man. Appreciate you so much, my man. Holy shit. Holy God. And the guy coming in He's a new member. Welcome to the Alliance, everybody. Straight up, so bullish, dude. Guys, everybody hit that like button. W's in the chat for Byron. I better be only seeing W's. I don't want to see anything else on the screen right now. W's, Byron's in the chat right now, guys, as we wait for Jerome Powell to come up with these gifted members. He knows that Byron's predicting Jerome market's about to cause a recession. And he's like, you know what? Before this happens, I'm going to take profit. I'm going to give back to the Discover community out here and just be a real motherfucker. And look, now we're all green today. We're all on the green. I see all the green. Look at all the green names in chats. Look at that. www. I see Karen. What's up, Karen? How you doing? Good to see you again. H-Bar, what's up, man? All the greens in the chats. www. Let's go, baby. Absolutely beautiful to see. 6,000 people between X and YouTube, guys. Make sure you hit that like button. We're now moments away, 4 minutes away from Jerome Powell coming up here, walking on stage like he owns his place and giving us the laydown of a lifetime. In fact, it's the same laid. We get laid the same way almost monthly by Jerome Powell. And again, shout out to Byron here with the 50 gifted, the 60 gifted now in total. And of course, all the new members that are joining us here today. You guys will get access to the Friday member streams with DZ. Of course, exclusive emotes and other content as well. You'll see on the memberships only. There is membership only content. We're actually planning to do even more membership only content. And if you guys want to see even more behind the scenes, make sure you guys go join for free the Discover Crypto channel, guys, on the Discord. You guys go hop into the Discover Crypto Discord where we do our trades, where we called out this trade, which you'd be up 2% with me in right now. Emergency cut to 0%. I would love to see that. I'd love to see it, man. Byron, not pre-rich. He's doing real shit. He's a real dude. Byron. The GOAT, dude. He needs a GOAT handlebar now, dude. That's what he needs. Just spitting, comes in here, spits knowledge on interest rate cuts, being like, we have to refinance our debt, just dropping knowledge, dropping absolute blessings on the chat here. Love to see you guys. World War III incoming. Feel like he has to show up dovish. I hope so, man. Let's hope so, brother. Byron, don't forget about the poor. Behind the scenes, Discover Crypto gets got its OnlyFans. No, not yet, Fluffy. That's bear market activities. But I did just get a fresh cut upstairs. May not be too long before I have to clean up downstairs and change industries because I lose everything. But Byron just fueled us for another month here. So shout out to Byron. He's keeping me from doing the dark petting zoo stuff. That's I don't know where I'm going with this. My mind's just, if you guys know what I meant by petting zoo, you're dirty. You're dirty. I'm not dirty. You're dirty. You guys know, you know what a petting zoo is. You're dirty, not me. I only know about it because of market research. Ah, shit. My internet's cutting out, guys. All right. 2 minutes away, guys. 2 minutes away. The silence in the room is deafening. Let's see where we're at. Where's the SPX at? Markets have no idea what to do, dude. They're just praying to God Jerome Powell comes out here and he's good to us. By the way, guys, I'm going to leave this up today, not the chart, because you'll know if the market's up or down just by simply seeing if I lose $500 today or if I make $500. If it's in the green, markets are up. If it's in the red, markets are down. Quite simple here today. Yeah. You know how it'll be. You know how it'll be. Not the biggest position, though, but that's just because we have no idea what's going to happen today. We have no idea. No idea. Good afternoon. We'd be below. Wow. Oh, good. If he says good afternoon, we crash. That's a good one. Love the whole DC crew. Have learned so much. Thank you. Anytime. Byron, again, shout out to you, man. Much love, brother. Your Fed video is like 30 seconds behind. Okay, we're going to go live. There we go. I just refreshed it for you. It's live. It's happening. Bing. Oh, shit. Bing. The bell has rung. Shit. He said good afternoon. No audio? My God, dude, no way. There you go.
Objective. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged.
I'm a failure.
We believe that the current stance of monetary policy
Are we good now?
leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments. I'll have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Following growth of 2.5% last year, GDP was reported to have edged down in the first quarter, reflecting swings in net exports that were driven by businesses bringing in imports ahead of potential tariffs. This unusual swing has complicated GDP measurement. Private domestic final purchases, or PDFP, as we call them, which excludes net exports, inventory investment, and government spending, grew at a solid 2.5% rate. Within PDFP, growth of consumer spending moderated, while investment in equipment and intangibles rebounded from weakness in the fourth quarter. Surveys of households and businesses, however, report a decline in sentiment over recent months and elevated uncertainty about the economic outlook, largely reflecting trade policy concerns. It remains to be seen how these developments might affect future spending and investment. In our summary of economic projections, the median participant projects GDP to rise 1.4% this year and 1.6% next year, somewhat slower than projected in March. In the labor market, conditions have remained solid. Payroll job gains averaged 135,000 per month over the past 3 months. The unemployment rate at 4.2% remains low and has stayed in a narrow range for the past year. Wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggests that conditions in the labor market are broadly in balance and consistent with maximum employment. The labor market is not a source of significant inflationary pressures. The median projection for the unemployment rate in the SEP is 4.5% at the end of this year and next, a bit higher than projected in March. Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer run goal. Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index and other data indicate that total PCE prices rose 2.3% over the 12 months ending in May, and that excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.6%. Near-term measures of inflation expectations have moved up over recent months, as reflected in both market and survey-based measures. Respondents to surveys of consumers, businesses, and professional forecasters point to tariffs as the driving factor. Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. The median projection in the SEP for total PCE inflation this year is 3%, somewhat higher than projected in March. The median inflation projection falls to 2.4% in 2026 and 2.1% in 2027. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5% and to continue reducing the size of our balance sheet. We will continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. Changes to trade, immigration, fiscal, and regulatory policies continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. The effects of tariffs will depend, among other things, on their ultimate level. Expectations of that level, and thus of the related economic effects, reached a peak in April and have since declined. Even so, increases in tariffs this year are likely to push up prices and weigh on economic activity. The effects on inflation could be short-lived, reflecting a one-time shift in the price level. It's also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent. Avoiding that outcome will depend on the size of the tariff effects, on how long it takes for them to pass through fully into prices, and ultimately on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our obligation is to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored and to prevent a one-time increase in the price level from becoming an ongoing inflation problem. As we act to meet that obligation, we will balance our maximum employment and price stability mandates, keeping in mind that without price stability, we cannot achieve the long periods of strong labor market conditions that benefit all Americans. We may find ourselves in the challenging scenario in which our dual mandate goals are in tension. If that were to occur, we would consider how far the economy is from each goal and the potentially different time horizons over which those respective gaps would be anticipated to close. For the time being, we are well positioned to wait to learn more about the likely course of the economy before considering any adjustments to our policy stance.
Oh my God.
In our SEP, FOMC participants wrote down their individual assessments of an appropriate path for the federal funds rate based on what each participant judges to be the most likely scenario.
Got safety protocols? Grainger has the Safety Pros 2 call.
Participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 3.9% at the end of this year, the same as projected in March. The median projection declines to 3.6% at the end of next year and to 3.4% at the end of 2027, a little higher than the March projection. These individual forecasts are always subject to uncertainty, and as I've noted, uncertainty is unusually elevated. And of course, these projections are not a committee plan or decision. At this meeting, the committee continued its discussions as part of our 5-year review of our monetary policy framework. We focused on issues related to assessing the risks and uncertainties that are relevant for monetary policy and the potential implications for policy strategy and communications. Our review includes outreach and public events involving a wide range of parties, including Fed Listens events around the country and a research conference that we held last month. We are open to new ideas and critical feedback, and we will take on board lessons of the last 5 years in determining our findings. We intend to wrap up any modifications to our statement on longer run goals and monetary policy strategy by late summer. After that, we will consider enhancements to our suite of communications tools, including the SEP. The Fed has been assigned 2 goals for monetary policy: maximum employment and stable prices. We remain committed to supporting maximum employment, bringing inflation sustainably to our 2% goal, and keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our success in delivering on these goals matters to all Americans. We understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission, and we at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
We up, baby.
Thank you. Colby Smith of the New York Times. To what extent has the more limited impact from tariffs at this stage on inflation changed your view on what the ultimate economic fallout will be from these policies and the timing of when they will materialize in the data?
So we've had 3 months of favorable inflation readings since the high readings of January and February, and that's, of course, highly welcome news. Part of that just is that services, core services, both housing services and non-housing services, have really been grinding down toward levels that are consistent with 2% inflation. So that's the good news. We've had goods inflation just moving up a bit, and of course we expect, as you point out, we do expect to see more of that over the course of the summer. It takes some time for tariffs to work their way through the chain of distribution to the end consumer. A good example of that would be goods being sold at retailers today may have been imported several months ago before tariffs were imposed. So we're beginning to see some effects, and we do expect to see more of them over coming months. We do also see price increases in some of the relevant categories like personal computers and audiovisual equipment and things like that that are attributable to tariff increases. In addition, we look at surveys of businesses, and there are many of those, and you do see a range of things, but many companies do expect to put all or some or all of the effect of tariffs through to the next person in the chain, and ultimately to the consumer. today, the amount of the amount of the tariff effects, the size of the tariff effects, their duration and the time it will take are all highly uncertain. So that is why we think the appropriate thing to do is to hold where we are as we learn more. And we think our policy stance is in a good place where we're well positioned to react to incoming developments.
So in terms of how we should interpret the rate cuts penciled into the SEP, is this reflecting that there's this expectation that underlying inflation will just stay well enough contained that allows the committee to eventually move ahead with those cuts? Or is it about, responding to a deterioration in economic activity, let's say? I mean, how should we make sense of the forecast?
So if you look at the forecast, you will see that people do generally expect inflation to move up and then to come back down. But we can't just assume that. Of course, we don't know that. And, our job is to make sure, one of our jobs is to make sure that a one-time increase in inflation doesn't turn into an inflation problem. And that, again, that will depend on the size of the effects, how long it takes for them to come in, and ultimately on keeping inflation expectations anchored.
Hi, and thanks, Chair Powell. Howard Schneider with Reuters. If you look at the rate path starting in December to today and adjusted over the full time horizon you've got there, you've taken about a quarter point per year out of your projected path, and you ended a higher rate at end 2027 than you would have in the prior forecast. Is that a result of a sense that tariffs will lead to more persistent inflation? Is it a result of reassessments of where your short-term neutral rate is? Why are you on a slower path now?
So I would focus most on the nearer term as you get out to the later years. It's hard for anybody to know where the economy is going. You didn't see people moving their longer term, estimate of the neutral rate, for example, at this meeting. So and those things are probably slow moving. So I think if you look at what's happening here since March, this is since March, right? You see a little slower growth, just a tiny tick up, a 1/10 tick up in unemployment, and you see inflation moving up 0.3. And by the way, it was a similar move from the December SEP to the March. So that's what you see. You see the effects of tariffs. I think we learned in April after the March meeting that substantially higher tariffs were likely, and then since then, the estimates of where the tariffs will be have actually moved back down, although still at an elevated level. So we're adapting in real time. And what you see is an accumulation of individual assessments.
You say in the statement that risks have diminished on that front, but the July 9th, drop dead date for all the Liberation Day tariffs is still out there and unresolved. You've got now exchange of missiles between two Middle East adversaries with a possible U.S. involvement. How can you justify saying that risks have diminished?
So what we said was that uncertainty uncertainty about the economic outlook has diminished but remains elevated. Many surveys say that they do. So and that's actually a line from the Teal book, which you can see in 5 years. Remember to check that.
Maybe the world will be over.
No, but if you think about it, tariff uncertainty really peaked in April, and since then has come down. And that's really what that's just acknowledging. It's diminished, but still elevated. That it's uncertainty. So I think that's an accurate statement.
Thank you. Chris Rugaber, Associated Press. There is an argument out there in favor of cutting rates more immediately. Inflation has continued to cool and is back at roughly 2% despite the tariffs. And I guess I also wanted to ask about, cracks in the job market with gross hiring slowing, concentrated in just a few industries. We've seen some housing data, including this morning, that have been pretty weak. Do you see any concerns that the economy is weakening and that is a reason to cut rates going forward?
So we do of course monitor all those things. I think if you look at the overall picture, what you're seeing is 4.2% unemployment and an economy that's growing at a rate hard to know given the unusual flows in the first quarter, but it appears to be 1.5%, 2%, maybe a little better than that. Sentiment has come up off of its very low levels. It's still depressed. So you can point to things. The housing market is a longer run problem and also a short run problem. I don't think it's indicative of, basically the situation is we have a longer run shortage of housing, and we also have high rates right now. I think the best thing we can do for the housing market is to restore price stability in a sustainable way and create a strong labor market. And that's the best thing we can do for the housing market. You asked about the job market. Again, look at labor force participation, look at wages, look at job creation. They're all at healthy levels now. I would say you can see perhaps a very, very slow continued cooling, but nothing that's troubling at this time. But we watch it very, very carefully. So overall, again, the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to economic developments, and for now, and we'll be watching the data carefully.
Well, just quickly on, given that, there are concerns inflation will rise, but there is the alternate scenario that tariffs would create demand destruction and slow growth sufficiently, and that would perhaps keep a bit of a lid on inflation. Do you see odds of that scenario? What kind of odds do you see of that scenario coming true? And how many months of cool inflation would you need to see before concluding that maybe that lower inflation scenario is taking place?
So this is very much the conversation we had today and yesterday. There are many, many different scenarios, many combinations of scenarios where inflation does or doesn't prove out to be at the levels we think, and where the labor market does or doesn't soften. And I think what you see people doing is looking ahead at a time of very high uncertainty and writing down what they think the most likely case is. No one holds these rate paths with a great deal of conviction, and everyone would agree that they're all going to be data dependent, and that you can make a case for any of the rate paths, I think, that you see in the SEP. And we do this once a quarter. It's a hard thing to do particularly at this time, but it does reflect. If you see somebody writing down a rate path that involves cuts, that's them saying, yes, I think we will get to a place, more likely than not, where cuts will be appropriate. And it could be a joint probability of a number of possible outcomes. Again, remember how much uncertainty we face, though.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I wonder if you could describe for us some of those scenarios. How do you get to a place? I'm noticing that the uncertainty levels in your forecast are very high.
Isn't the future always uncertain?
You have
a stupid question.
In the outlook for, say, inflation and or growth or the unemployment rate. How many months does it take, and what do you want to see in the data to get to that level of confidence to actually reduce rates off the restrictive level?
So it's very, very hard to say when that will happen. We know that the time will come. It could come quickly. It could not come quickly. As long as the economy is solid, though, as long as we're seeing the kind of labor market that we have and reasonably decent growth and inflation moving down, we feel like the right thing to do is to be where we are, where our policy stance is, and just learn more. And in particular, we feel like we're going to learn a great deal more over the summer on tariffs. We do.
Dude,
want to keep your hairline where it is?
Guys, I'm on the wrong account. I have YouTube Premium. I just set up
so you can see to the extent to which they do over coming months, and I think that's going to inform our thinking for one thing. In addition, we'll see how the labor market progresses. So at some point, it will become clear. I can't tell you exactly when that will be. And meanwhile, we'll be watching the labor market very carefully for signs of weakness and strength. And
I have money, I swear.
Signs of what's going to happen there. And of course, there are many developments ahead. Even in the near term, developments are expected on tariffs. So I think we don't yet know with any confidence where they will settle out. We have an estimate, and it's I think all estimates are now pretty close together, but it's highly uncertain.
When you say estimate of the impact of tariffs on the core PCE, is that what it is? And could you share that?
What you start with is what's the effective tariff rate overall, and people are managing to that. But the pass-through of tariffs to consumer price inflation is a whole process that's very uncertain. As you know, there are many parties in that chain. There's the manufacturer, the exporter, the importer, the retailer, and the consumer. And each one of those is going to be trying not to be the one to pay for the tariff. But together, they will all pay for it together, or maybe one party will pay it all. But that process is very hard to predict. And we haven't been through a situation like this. And I think we have to be humble about our ability to forecast it. So that's why we need to see some actual data to make better decisions. We'd like to get some some more data. And again, in the meantime, we can do that because the economy remains in solid condition.
Guys, I can't afford YouTube Premium.
Nick Tamarosa of the Wall Street Journal.
Understand.
Chair Powell, I guess I'm wondering if you could explain a little bit more the divergence we see in the dot plot, particularly around the 2025 rate projections. I realize this is, you have one group of officials that are putting down no cuts, another that are putting down more than one. And again, recognizing that could be difficult to summarize, but is it a matter of people having a different outlook or a different reaction function, a different commitment to defending against another inflation mistake? How did that play out over the last 2 days?
So you're right. This is often the case. We have a pretty healthy diversity of views on the committee. We did have strong support for today's decision and broad agreement that our policy stance does leave us in a good place. But I would point to two factors, and you mentioned them. The first is just that parties have a diversity of forecasts, and they do align with where their dots are. So if you have a higher inflation forecast, you're going to be less likely to be writing down, more cuts. But remember, as we see more data, we're going to learn more about where inflation is headed, and that means when it is time to look at resuming our normalization process, the differences you see should be smaller because we'll have seen actual data. Right now, it's just a forecast in a very foggy time. So that's the first part, is forecast. Secondly, people can look at the same data and they can evaluate the risks differently, as you know. And that includes, the risk of higher inflation, the risk that it'll be more persistent, the risk that the labor market will weaken. People are going to have different assessments of that risk. So that you put that in there too. So those are the two ways that the two things I think that drive these things. Remember though, as I mentioned earlier, with uncertainty as elevated as it is, no one holds these rate paths with a lot of conviction. So that's really where it is. It's a function of those things. And I think as the data come in, you should see those differences diminish.
If I could follow up, you've said the policy is in a good place and that it's modestly restrictive. Given all the uncertainty you just talked about, tariff levels, uncertainty around the pass-through, is it price increases versus margin compression, some of the softness that Chris talked about in labor and housing, why wouldn't it be better to have rates at a more neutral setting as the economy heads into this period of very high uncertainty?
So if you just look backward at the data, that's what you would say, but that's not, we have to be forward looking. And the thing that every forecaster, every outside forecaster and the Fed is saying is that we expect a meaningful amount of inflation to arrive in coming months.
But they just said historical data says the cut.
I think a backward looking look would lead you to a neutral stance, but we can't, we have to look at that and because the economy is still solid, we can take the time to actually see what's going to happen. There's a range of possibilities on how large the inflation effects and the other effects are going to be. So we'll make smarter and better decisions if we just wait a couple of months or however long it takes to get a sense of really what is going to be the pass-through of inflation and what's going to be the effects on spending and on hiring and all those things.
So based off historical data, it says cut.
Michael McKee from Bloomberg Radio and Television.
Crazy.
Your friend down at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue continues to lob insults in your direction. And I'm wondering, given now that the Supreme Court has maybe carved out the Fed from some of the legal implications of that, whether this is just noise that the markets and everybody should ignore until your term is up, or whether you worry that it could lead to more pressure on confidence.
I'll play the Titanic song
on consumers about the outlook for the economy.
Okay. From my standpoint, it's not complicated. What everyone on the FOMC wants is a good, solid American economy with strong labor market and price stability. That's what we want. We think our policy is well positioned right now to deliver that and to be able to respond in a timely way as the data lead us around. The economy's been resilient, and part of that is our stance. And again, we think we're in a good place on that to respond to significant economic developments. That's what matters. That is what matters to us. Pretty much that's all that matters to us.
I need to ask, assuming you are not reappointed, would you stay on as governor when your term as chair ends?
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about this.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I guess
Little
with
heat in that
workplace
conversation. Ooh,
increasing,
spicy.
picking up significantly, what kind of effect would that have on the labor market
Sorry,
in the short
with
term?
what picking up?
Workplace raids.
So you're asking immigration?
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't want to speculate. One way to get at that from an economic standpoint, we of course don't comment on immigration policy. It's not ours to make or comment on. But what you see is an unemployment rate that has been really solid and at a low level, not really increasing. It's been in a good range and well within the range of mainstream estimates of maximum employment. And that means, like, part of that is that labor demand and labor supply are kind of moving down at the same rate. Labor demand is softening. You see that in job creation, but it's still kind of at a healthy level. And labor supply is diminishing because the immigration numbers that we see are much lower than they were. So those two factors, supply and demand, that's what has kept the unemployment rate in a reasonably stable place.
Okay, thanks. The other thing I wanted to follow up on is if you could elaborate on the potential changes to the SCP that you suggested were part of the framework review, I think.
So the framework review really has two tracks, right? The first track is our policy framework that is reflected in the consensus statement.
They're going dumping, dude.
We've said that we would finish that and announce it by the end of the summer. So we're well along in that process. We've had the meetings that we need to have, and we're now going to be going into, into discussions about, specific changes to language. So that's the framework part of it. The second part of it is our communications tools and practices. Pardon me. And that part comes next. Okay, that's what we're going to do in the meetings this fall. Actually, what we did at this meeting, though, is we sort of prepared the ground for that. We had a meeting where we talked at a high level about a number of ideas. The SCP is part of it. Many other ideas. It's sort of, how do we think our communications can be improved? There are a number of ideas. People offered a really, it was a great conversation, number of ideas, but we're going to look at those with staff briefing and a lot of thought in the fall. And I would say when it comes to changing communications, I would only support things really only implement things that have very broad support. And also you want to be really careful because I think our communications are pretty well received. They're not broken. So more is not necessarily better, but better is better. So we're going to be looking at ways to do things that will improve the clarity of what we do for the benefit of the public.
200x short is crazy. I'm on 5x.
Grady, CBS News. You're famously known as the guy that makes decision based on data instead of speculation. You said today the inflation data is in a good place. We don't know how tariffs are going to impact prices going forward. That's uncertain. But I've got to go back to the last time that you cut rates in December, and there was still the what if of tariffs. So what made you feel comfortable cutting then when inflation was higher than where it is today?
Good question.
Today.
Well,
great question.
The forecast for inflation in December was 2.5%. Core PCE for 2025, the forecast was 2.5%, which was a good inflation forecast. I think what we've learned is that, and this was long before we had any idea of what the actual policies would be. We've learned that the tariffs are going to be substantially larger than forecasters generally thought. And we don't, our forecasts are generally not particularly different from those of other, well-resourced forecasting operations. So what we learned, and particularly in April, was that very substantially larger tariffs were coming and that would mean higher inflation. That's what happened. And so you saw 2.5% forecast in December, you saw 2.8% in March, and you see 3.1% now. So it's 0.6 higher inflation for 2025. And that's a big part of the change. And that's due to the effects of the tariffs that are, we don't know where they're going to land, but it's pretty apparent they're going to land higher than outside forecasters were really guessing at the end of last year.
My follow-up to that, I think consumers are looking for relief on rates when it comes to mortgages, car loans. Small businesses want to take out more manageable loans. When you look at the cumulative inflation over the past 5 years, prices have risen over 20%. It's been a rough road. So what is the tipping point then for the wait and see approach in terms of how much it's going to help versus when it hurts the American consumer?
Well, I mean, we're trying to restore price. Best thing we can do for the public that we serve is restore price stability. If we can, and we will, restore price stability, meaning 2% inflation on a durable, sustainable basis. That, and also maximum employment. If we restore those things, that's the best thing.
Look, guys, I like ads. That's what I like.
The ultimate thing that we can deliver, and they can make their decisions without having to think about inflation all the time. So in the meantime, we have to keep rates high,
and then restart it
to get inflation all the way down. They're not very high. Let's be honest. I would say policy is modestly or moderately, probably modestly now restrictive. If you look at the economy, it's not performing as though it were performing under very strict monetary policy, very restrictive monetary policy. So I would say probably modestly restrictive. And so what it will take is confidence that inflation is coming down. Now, I would say without tariffs, that confidence would be building, because if you see what's happening with non-housing services and housing services, which are the other two big pieces other than goods, those are coming down really nicely now. So I think we have to learn a little more about tariffs. I don't know what the right way for us to react will be. I think it's hard to know with any confidence how we should react until we see really the size of the effects. Then we can start to make a better judgment. So that's what we're doing. And I think we can take the time to do that because unemployment is 4.2%. Wages are moving up. Real wages are moving up at a healthy clip now. And inflation is 2.3% headline inflation over a 12-month basis. So it's a good economy and a solid economy with decent growth.
Edward.
Thank you, Chair Powell. So you're saying that uncertainty has come down, the economy is moving at a solid pace, inflation has come down over the past 3 months, and this is all moving in the right direction. So are you indicating here that Americans should expect some sort of economic pain in the second half of the year?
I'm not saying that at all. From our standpoint, what I can say is that the U.S. economy is in solid shape. Inflation has come down. The unemployment rate remains at 4.2%. As I mentioned, real wages are moving up. It's a good job creation is at a healthy level. Unemployment, again, as I said, low. Labor force participation in a good place. So, and what we're waiting for to reduce rates is to understand what will happen with really the tariff inflation. And there's a lot of uncertainty about that. Every forecaster you can name who is a professional, forecaster with adequate resources and forecasts for a living is forecasting pretty significant. Everyone that I know is forecasting a meaningful increase in inflation in coming months from tariffs, because someone has to pay for the tariffs, and it will be someone in that chain that I mentioned between the manufacturer,
he's making
the
it
exporter,
political,
the importer, the retailer,
which is so weird.
Ultimately, somebody putting it into a
that was a political
just
statement.
the consumer buying it.
That's against the Treasury Secretary.
That chain, people will be trying not to be the ones who pick up the cost, but ultimately the cost of the tariff has to be paid, and some of it will fall on the end consumer. We know that because that's what businesses say. That's what the data say from past. So we know that's coming, and we just want to see a little bit of that before we make judgments prematurely.
And follow up on that. So you spent years ago talking about how you're data dependent, and be a little more direct on this.
Yes.
Now you're making decisions looking forward.
Yes.
Doesn't the data you're seeing today indicate there should be a rate cut?
No, I mean, your monetary policy has to be forward-looking. That is elementary. You've got to be looking. We always talk about the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. We say that over and over and over again, right? So it's always forward-looking. If at the very beginning of the pandemic, we cut rates to zero immediately. Nothing had happened. We just knew that it was going to be really bad, right? So we took very aggressive forward-looking because we knew things were going to be unusually difficult. So of course, this is something we sort of know is coming. We just don't know the size of it. And again, the economy seems to be in solid shape. So the labor market's not crying out for a rate cut. Businesses,
profits again, baby.
WWW. After April 2, but you see business sentiment. You talk to business people now. There's a very different feeling now that people are working their way through this, and they understand how they're going to go, and it feels much more positive and constructive than it did 3 months ago, let's say. So again, we think that our current stance of monetary policy is in a good place.
Thank you. Amara Mokway with Bloomberg. Chair Powell, in February, you told Congress that the Fed is, quote, overworked, maybe not overstaffed. Then in a memo to staff in May announcing a deferred resignation program at the Fed, you said you wanted to ensure that the Fed was, quote, right-sized. Those two statements appear to be at odds with one another. Could you explain what changed in the roughly 3 months between those statements that made you decide that staff levels at the Fed should decline?
I don't see them at all as intention. So I was asked, is the Fed overstaffed? And I said, no, and I sort of said as a pun, overworked, but not overstaffed. People do work extremely hard at the Fed, and I know they work hard at Bloomberg too. So, but we work hard, but I would say this. So we are careful stewards of public resources, and sometimes you need to show that. So there have been several times in our history, modern history, where the Fed has said, you know what, we're going to do a buyout. We're going to show the public, we're going to demonstrate that we are good stewards of public resources. So we thought, and I thought that this is a time when we can, we grow at about, our headcount has grown at about 1% a year. So over the course of a couple of years, we're doing a careful scrub of the board and all the reserve banks, and we're going to find 10% of employees who can do something else, where we can streamline our operations, and we think we can get there in a couple of years. We think we can do that, and we think this is without taking risk to carrying out our critical missions. So this is something you do very carefully, thoughtfully, and you do it again respecting that we have critical missions to carry out. I've had a lot of experience in my prior careers, with headcount reductions and things like that, and this is how you do it professionally. You do it carefully, thoughtfully, with a lot of planning, and you do it over a period of time. I think the Fed will be fine. I think no one will notice any decline in our ability to carry out our missions. And I think it's just us wanting to demonstrate to the public that we are actually good stewards of their resources. We're effectively wiping out 10 years of headcount growth with this. So, I mean, we wanted to show that, that we're good stewards.
How is progress on reducing headcount going so far? Are you on track to meet the goal?
We're just at the very beginning. As you know, we're doing a buyout program. We're gonna hit that goal. I think many organizations find that they can do this. You don't want to do it.
I'm gonna ask about
Bitcoin,
Bitcoin.
but you can do it at intervals.
Bitcoin.
You wind up not interfering with your ability to perform your jobs.
And Chair Powell, Claire Jones from the Financial Times. As you're no doubt aware, the Senate Finance Committee has tabled its version of the reconciliation bill this week, and I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the tenor of the debate at the FOMC over the past few days on fiscal policy and the degree to which that influenced people's projections for 2026 and beyond. Thank you.
Yeah, so we don't sit around and debate or really discuss. We take fiscal policy as fully exogenous, and so we actually really didn't talk about the bill or the contents of it. It's still evolving. When it gets closer, remember also we have a very, very large economy, and the effects will be at the margin, I expect that they may already be in, but they will be in by the next meeting. We'll make an estimate, but it's not a major thing. It's nothing that we discuss. It may have been mentioned a couple of times, but as something that's coming in. But I think the outcome is, we don't know the outcome yet there, so hard to be real specific.
Neil. Bro has no answers.
Thanks, Chair Powell. Neil Irwin with Axios. There have been some cutbacks in economic statistics collection in the last few weeks. Worries that long-running problems around funding and response rates may be getting worse. How much is this concern on your radar? How much confidence do you have that the gauges you're watching to assess the economy are reliable right now?
What question was that?
Two things. One, the data we get right now, we can do our jobs. I'm not concerned that we can't do our jobs.
Can you do your job?
That's not the point. The point really is that we are starting to see, layoffs and important gatherers of data are saying that they're having to cut back on the size of their surveys. That's going to lead to more volatility in the surveys. I think we should take a step back and, from our standpoint, and I think the standpoint of businesses and governments and everyone, having really good data on the state of the economy at any given time is a huge public good. It helps, it not just doesn't help the Fed, it helps the government, it helps Congress, it helps the executive branch. More importantly, really, it helps businesses. They need to know what's going on in the economy. The United States has been a leader for many, many years in this whole project of measuring and understanding what's happening in our very large and dynamic economy. And I hate to see us cutting back on that, because it is a real benefit to the general public that people in all kinds of jobs have the best possible understanding of what's happening in the economy and hence what's likely to happen. It's very hard to measure what's going on in the U.S. economy. If you read, there was a book called, it's really remarkable how many things you need to understand to estimate U.S. GDP. Very, very difficult. And it's so important that we get it right. I just would say it's not a place I would want to keep investing in that, for the good of the general public.
Victoria. Hi, Victoria Guida with Politico. So you're conducting this monetary policy strategy framework review, but next year we're supposed to have a new Fed chair. And I'm wondering if that affects at all the way that you're approaching this. How do you ensure
I say no?
this
Why would he?
framework will actually be durable?
The framework document goes back to 2012, and it's the committee's document. It's not like we're going to invent a brand new way to do things. It's been an evolving document, so it shouldn't depend on who the chair is at all. It should depend on what's happening in the economy and what the committee wants to do. So, yeah, it isn't really tied to any particular chair. And we used to renew it every year. Now we do it every 5 years. So, but I don't think I've never heard anyone raise this issue that a new chair might want to come in and go in a completely different direction. I really don't think that's right. But that's not going to be up to me to decide.
Is that affecting at all
No.
My goal weight is feeling healthy.
Hers. No, dude. No. Was that the last question?
Chair Powell, Matt Egan from CNN. Relatively low gas prices this year have helped drive down inflation in recent reports, but that trend is starting to reverse given the crisis in the Middle East. How are you thinking about how the Israel-Iran conflict will impact the economy, especially inflation? And what lessons were learned during the 2022 period when another conflict, the Russia-Ukraine war, sent oil and gas prices skyrocketing?
So, of course, we're watching, like everybody else is, what's going on.
We're going to wait and see.
Comment on that. Possible that we'll see higher energy prices. What's tended to happen is when there's turmoil in the Middle East, you may see a spike in energy prices, but tends to come down. Those things don't generally tend to have lasting effects on inflation, although, of course, in the 1970s, they famously did, because you had a series of very, very large shocks.
And that's why we fucking hodl,
we haven't
baby.
seen anything like that now. The U.S. economy is far less dependent on foreign oil than it was back in the 1970s. So, but there.
A quick follow-up. I've just got to ask you about artificial intelligence. Some technology executives have recently been warning that AI could wipe out a large chunk of entry-level jobs and significantly increase the unemployment rate. I'm wondering how concerned you are, if at all, about the threat that AI poses to employment.
So this is the question. The question really is, will AI be more augmenting labor or replacing labor? And I wouldn't, we all see those announcements, including one today. I wouldn't, overread a couple of data points, because, AI should be creating jobs at the same time. It may be replacing, maybe doing both. Anyone who's done any work with AI will have been a little bit stunned at how capable it is. And it's just a different thing. So I think this is something that certainly has transformational potential. And probably we're in the very early stages of it. You know, they say what you're seeing now compared to what you'll see in 2 years is going to be very different and even more effective. So I think it's really hard to know. That, you know, of course, there are optimists who feel like it's going to make everybody much more
efficient,
productive. And there are those who think it's going to replace an awful lot of jobs right across the income spectrum, you know, white collar, blue collar, and everything. So I just don't know. We don't have a house view on that. But this is going to be.
Do I close, chat? Do I close
for some time?
Do I close or hold?
Okay.
Close or hold? Do I close or hold?
Thank you. Greg Rapp from MarketWatch. I was wondering if you could step back a little bit, Chair Powell. You know, there's a spate of articles and a lot of op-eds now in the newspapers saying that the U.S. economy and the global economy is going through this profound change, you know, akin to the end of the Bretton Woods era in the 1970s. And don't you owe the American people like some sort of like explanation for what we're going through? I mean, I noticed earlier this month when you talked about Bretton Woods a little bit, and you said that Bretton Woods, the Fed staff had to like change how the dollar movements of the dollar was impacting the economy. Are we going through something like that now? That, you know, are you having to change how you do monetary policy? Is it that fundamental a change underway? Thanks.
It's certainly a time of real change. You know, from a geopolitical standpoint, from a trade standpoint, from an immigration standpoint, you see this not just here but everywhere. So there's quite a lot going on. It doesn't change the way we do monetary policy in the near term. I mean, but and it doesn't change our objectives or what we need to do. And you know, these things are not really our issues. They're really issues for elected governments. All of those issues are really for elected governments. But there's no question it's a time of real change, and very hard to see where that goes. You know, will it be? There have been many things written about how it's going to be a more inflationary time. That's possible. It's not guaranteed. You know, AI could cut in the very other direction. AI could make people much more productive and push in the other direction. I don't know though. So, but you're right. But honestly, our focus is a much more practical one, and that is how do we keep inflation low and employment high in the near term. That's really what we're about.
Hello, Chairman Powell. Mark Hamrick with Bankrate. What is the view about the growing amount of slack in the job market, including the softening in payrolls, the forecast of a modest rise in the unemployment rate, and the ability of workers to demand wage hikes or not in this environment where you have inflation surging?
You don't really see unemployment going up. You don't see increased slack really. I mean, at the margin, remember you're at 4.2% unemployment. That was for many years, that was a extremely low level. It happens to have come up off of an even lower level as we came out of the pandemic. We were as low as 3.4%, but 4.2% is probably at the low end of estimates of the longer run, sustainable level of natural rate of unemployment. So I guess I wouldn't agree with that. And also in terms of wages, you know, real wages after inflation have been moving up sort of more than was consistent with 2% inflation. They're still moving up at a healthy clip, and I think much more consistent with 2% inflation given a reasonable assessment of trend productivity. So it's a pretty good labor market. You know, you're right that the level of job creation has come down, but so has the supply of workers, the change in the supply, the new supply. So you've seen the unemployment rate remain pretty stable at 4.2. It's been as high as 4.3, but you know, those are good numbers. So it's a pretty good labor market. There's a more concerning thing is there are not a lot of layoffs, but there are not a lot of job creation. The number, if you're out of work, it's hard to find a job, but very few people are being laid off at this point. So that's an equilibrium we watch very carefully, because if there were to be significant layoffs and the job finding rate were to remain this low, you would have an increase in unemployment fairly quickly. But that hasn't happened. It really hasn't happened. The U.S. economy has defied all kinds of forecasts for it to weaken really over the last 3 years. And it's been remarkable to see just again and again when people think it's going to weaken. Now, eventually it will, but we don't see signs of that now.
Put it to him for the last question. Hi, Chair Powell, Jean Young with MNI Market News. There's been a lot of talk about cuts. I wanted to ask you, why do you think there are no forecasts for rates to rise or even to stay where they are next year, given that the projection for inflation is to rise to 3%, and there's a lot of there's some skepticism over whether those price hikes will be a one-time event.
So there are.
Chat, let you answer this. Why do you guys think they're not raising interest rates? I need to be in this room. I need to be asking, what are some of these questions are repetitive, they're redundant, or I don't know what that was. Honey, inflation ain't. What are you talking about? We're at 4.2. What? She sounded nervous though, so I'm not trashing on the report. Maybe she was nervous. Maybe she was new. Maybe it was her first time. Damn, dude.
This is exactly what's going to happen over the next 2 years. No one feels that way about their rate path. They feel like, what am I going to write down? What would you write down? It's not easy to do that with confidence. So I would just say it that way. We don't rule things in or out. Certainly a hike is not the base case at all. It's not something people are writing down. But in the meantime, we do the best we can with these forecasts, and I think they're representative of the different forecasts and different reaction functions that people on the committee have. So thank you very much. Thanks.
No claps. Yikes, man. That's a hard job. Hard job to have there, chap. Well, there you have it. There you have it, guys. That would be Jerome Powell speaking here. We're up right now 414. I held all the way through that shit. We were up 400, down 200, back up 400. You guys know how it be. You know how it be. And guess what? I'm just going to set it at break even because I want $1,000 or I don't want anything. That's how I'll be out here. He's over for Pelosi to close their trade. They ain't raising because mining inflation. You guys got it, guys. Close your long now, yo. I will in a second. Yeah, just absolutely insane. Absolutely. Trump is speaking live right now. Is Trump speaking live too? Chat, is Trump speaking live right now?
It seems like this issue on whether or not the United States should strike is kind of dividing a lot of your supporters.
No, my supporters are for me. Make America great again. My supporters don't want to see Iran have a nuclear weapon. Tucker's a nice guy. He called and apologized the other day because he thought he said things that were a little bit too strong, and I appreciated that. And Ted Cruz is a nice guy. He's been with me for a long time. I'd say once the race was over, he's been with me ever since, right? But very simple. If they think that it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, then they should oppose me. But nobody thinks.
Are we good?
Okay. People that don't want, I don't want to fight either. I'm not looking to fight. But if it's a choice between fighting and them having a nuclear weapon, you have to do what you have to do. Maybe we won't have to fight. Don't forget, we haven't been fighting. We add a certain amount of genius to everything, but we haven't been fighting at all. Israel's done a very good job of that. But we'll see what happens. The bottom line is they can't have nuclear. And if I can't imagine that Ted Cruz said it's okay for Iran to have nuclear, including Tucker. I don't think Tucker says it's okay. The problem is then they get themselves into a thing. They don't want them to have nuclear, but then they say, well, we don't want to fight. Well, you're going to have to make a choice because it's possible that you're going to have to fight for them not to have nuclear. And it's interesting because I did ask Tucker, I said, well, are you okay with nuclear weapons being in the hands of Iran? And he sort of didn't like that. He didn't want to really, but he sort of didn't like that. And I said, well, if it's okay with you, then you and I do have a difference. But it's really not okay with him. Therefore, you may have to fight, and maybe it'll end, and maybe it'll end very quickly. But there's no way that you can allow, whether you have to fight or not, you can allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon because the entire world will blow up. I'm not going to let that happen.
Mr. President, you had a bit of a row with President Emmanuel Macron in France the other day, the G7, it sounded like.
He's a nice guy. Look, He said I was going back home to make a ceasefire. Not a ceasefire. We're long beyond ceasefire. And I said, why do you say that? Why would you say ceasefire? It's a bad term to use because a ceasefire means like everything's going swimmingly. We'll take a little time off. It's not. We're not looking for a ceasefire. We're looking for a total, complete victory. Again, you know what the victory is. No nuclear weapon.
Mr. President.
So I thought it was a very badly worded statement by him, and obviously I let him know that.
On the southern border, you've had record low numbers for the month.
This is an old recording?
Apprehensions, 0 releases compared to that of the previous administration exactly a year ago, more than 60,000 releases. What do you attribute that success to?
I like you. Who are you with?
Turning Point USA, sir.
Well, they're very good. Turning Point. Charlie, very good.
I missed the
See,
question.
that's what I call a good question, fellas. 1 out of 10, John. 1 out of 10, but that's a really good question. No, we had record good numbers on the border. And people are coming in, but they have to come in legally. Like some of these guys behind me, they have to come in legally. And if they come in legally, we want them. They have to say they love America, they love our country. And if they can't say that, we don't want them. Thank you very much. Very nice. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, press. Thank you, guys.
That was it on that. Pump the markets now, dude. Everybody's pump this shit, dude. Everybody's done talking. Trump didn't crash it. Was this the Panthers? I couldn't tell. The Florida Panthers won, but I don't know who's behind them. Oh no, I don't know who these are. I don't know who they be. Who they be out there? Interesting. Close that off here. Close this one off here. Well, that was the most. President Trump said Iran wants to visit the White House. Wait, he said Iran wants to visit the White House, and maybe he may be considering allowing it. What? I missed that. That's insane. That's insane, man. What's up, Ed? How you doing? One of the only cases to raise rates is to reduce the dollar devaluation, but Congress, yeah, facts. They keep printing endless. Does the Coinbase allow USD stablecoins to use as collateral? Interesting. Are you not entertained? I'm not entertained, Kelly. Kelly Kellum, I was not entertained by that chat. We have been at break even pretty much this entire time, guys. I'm gonna put my stop loss at break even. Like if it just gets stopped at a break, it's just what it is. Like just a free trade. 44.2. 144.3. 8. 5. All right, we're gonna get stopped out for $6 profit, guys. Unless it bounces magically right here. But we'll take the $6 profit here. And just it was a fun trade, guys. I wanted to leave it open. I didn't want to close it for, like I didn't need a few $100 there. It is what it is. If it was, you know, if it was a $40,000 trade, that'd be different. But yeah, so right now we're just testing with it right now. It's open. If you guys want to follow along with those trades, make sure you guys join the Discord. We've made some crazy trades. Made some insane trades last week. Made some 10,000. Took a 5K hit the other day, but we made 13K profit last week. We're just crushing it, man. We're just absolutely crushing it here. So just be chilling. How can I leverage in the UK? Everything is banned. I mean, right now you could use CoinW. It's right here. I think this should be available to the UK. Eventually, though, I want to, through FOMO, my platform here that I'm building here, we're going to integrate prop exchanges. So if you guys don't, and oh, we got closed out. Perfect. All right, we got closed out for literally $6 profits, guys, which essentially means break even with trading fees. So, but why this is important here is that we're going to be integrating widgets soon to a prop exchange. So you guys can actually, if you guys don't want to use real money yet, we're going to be integrating prop exchange, which you can still actually make money doing so, but you pay for a subscription. So if like you pay $30 a month, you get $3,000 worth of prop money. And you could trade with that, earn rewards, earn airdrops, earn actual real cash. So it's just like, it's a educational dashboard. So it teaches you how to trade. So that's going to be the first place. But then, of course, you have CoinW and everything as well, where you'll be able to do all of it. But yeah, we're building a lot of that out here. As if you guys want to follow along with that, that is going to be right here for you guys. There's also the free news websites too. But right now, Literally, everything's bootstrapped. At the website's free here for you to use on the news. If you guys want to use the news aggregation, this will be changing a little bit. The dashboard has a free version, but if you want to use the paid dashboard, this is like $9 or something like that. But we'll be building this out. The reason for that is you'll be able to buy, sell, trade, swap on any single platform, any single one of your widgets, all directly with one wallet in one platform for the first time ever at a lower cost. We have cool reward systems and structures we're going to be dropping. For example, advertisements. I think if you see an ad, you should, one, be able to choose if you want to see the ad, but two, you should be paid out as a user. If we have a good platform, hopefully you'll spend that money within the platform. But yeah, we're just slowly building, guys. Slowly building here. I have right now a Bitcoin dashboard, and this is a Solana dashboard. So I have my Solana liquidations, my Solana order book. You have up to your 5, all the way up to your hourly, whatever you want on your candlesticks here. And we're going to be integrating signals and everything. So it will be really fun. There you go, guys. But yeah, that's what I got for you guys today, guys. That was the FOMC meeting. Nothing crazy. We literally traded sideways the entire time. Really, there's a little bit of price action, a little bit of swap functionality. But it wasn't anything crazy. So broke even at that trade there, brother. And we're just building, guys. We're just building right now. It's all like every profit I make goes back into just building right now and producing content. So it's banned in the UK. It's a shame. Well, get FOMO because you'll be able to do stuff through FOMO. I promise soon, man. Promise soon. Thank Josh for building out your app out. What's up, DeFi? By the way, guys, follow DeFi Crypto Airdrops. He's a goat. He's like, if you want to learn how to use yield, this is where you go. This is the channel. He's in the Discord as well. In the process of doing one, and it's slow going. Yeah, it's very slow. We have now a team of about 17 full-time developers, upwards of 35 contractors ready to scale. So we're just closing a few huge grants and some projects, and hopefully we'll just start scaling, man. But all right, guys, much love. Thank you guys for being here. Check out FOMO.io and make sure you guys join the Discord later today so you guys don't miss out on any of your crypto news. And let me give you guys the news website right here, guys. You can add it to your home screen. We will be on the App Store here. Hopefully August is the goal there. We're shooting for August, or at least Q3 this year, guys. But go check that out. And again, guys, if you haven't already checked out Arculus, check out Arculus. And if you haven't already, jump into the Discover Crypto Discord where I put all of our calls. Because while I went live with a degenerate trade for FOMC, which I never do, I do post all of my calls and trades in there. And anybody in the chat will let you know that they make tons and tons of money in that Discord. So appreciate you guys for being here. Much love. Talk to you guys soon.